Okay, hello everyone. Guys, I'm at school right now, so you might hear some stuff in the background. Y'all, today we're going to factor cubics by grouping. All right? Grouping is the last sort of factoring technique that we will learn here this trimester, okay? Again, today's objective, to factor cubic polynomials by grouping. What a surprise. Again, a cubic is the x to the third. X to the third. All right, is the largest exponent on the variable is 3. That's what makes it a cubic. Today's essential question: how can we use grouping to factor a cubic polynomial? Let's find out. I mean, here's kind of a grouping right here, but just a quick review, y'all. Look at, we learned about GCF. All right, you should always look for a possible greatest common factor. One of the first thing, just look, is there any greatest common factors I can take out? That's kind of the first thing that you look for. And we learned about factoring quadratics where a equals 1. We learned how to do that. Right? We talked about the X method, or we learned to what I call go straight for the answer and just factor it. Looking for the two numbers that you need and look at the patterns of the signs. Then we learned the slide method, where a is not 1. All right, and there is no common factor. A is still not 1. We use the slide method, okay, which kind of converts it into where a is 1. So we know how to factor it. All right, and then we divide it back out, if you remember how to do that. There's the last one we're going to do. We're going to factor cubics. Again, number 2 and 3 here, we factored quadratics. Specifically, we factored quadratics. Okay, number 4 right here now, we're going to factor cubics. All right, x to the third. It's the only, we're going to use cubics to learn about grouping. That's what we're going to do, okay? Now, real quick again, let me move myself out of the way here, kind of off the screen. Again, guys, a GCF problem that I will be giving you, it'll probably look something like that. Again, now this one has 2 variables, so be aware of that. I can factor out a 2 right here, 8, 10, and 4. I can factor out a 2. But I can also take an x out, because they each have at least one x. And I can take a y out, because they each have a y. I can take the y out too. So 2xy, that's the greatest common factor. All right, number 2 here again, factor where a equals 1, so it's something that looks like that. You factor it. Again, we're looking for 2 numbers multiplied together, you get 12. Added together, you get 8. All right, depends on what that sign is right there. All right, then we use a slide method. Again, we learned about this one. Take the 8, slide it back. All right, 8 times 15 is 120. The difference between them is 2, so it's 10 and 12. All right, you can go ahead and factor it that way. All right, now we're going to look at grouping. So when you see a problem like this, that's a cubic with 4 terms. A cubic polynomial with 4 terms. If you see that, right, then use grouping. And this is what you do. Go back here. Can I move myself back? All right. Again, you're given a cubic with 4 terms. You go ahead and group into 2 polynomials. Just group the first 2 together and group the last 2 together. All right. Take out the greatest common factor from each group. In this case, it's 2x squared. It will always be an x squared. That's what I'm going to do, okay? Oops, I'm disappearing. And this one I can take out a 7 from both. But what happens here, you guys, now this doesn't always happen, but the problems I'm going to give you are set up this way. That, see this binomial, x minus 3 here, and then this one, x minus 3 right there? That's a common factor of these two terms. These two terms. I can take that common factor out and put it in front, which is what I do right here. X minus 3 comes out and goes in front. And you can put it in back too if you want. It doesn't matter. The idea is it's a common factor of these two terms, so take it out. So the two terms that are left are 2x squared plus 7. That's factored by grouping. Let's look at another example. And you're given a cubic with 4 terms. A cubic with 4 terms. So recognize right away that we're going to use grouping. So go ahead and group them into 2 groups, 2 binomials. All right, the first grouping, look for what are the possible common factors. Well, I can take a 3 out of both. 3 and 15, I can take a 3 out. And I can take 2 x's out of it. And I'll do that most of the time, guys. It'll be an x squared you can take out of here. And the second one will be just a constant integer you can take out. Here, 4 and 20, you can take out the 4. I'm left with x plus 5 and x plus 5. So I can take out the x plus 5 from both. Take it out, put it in front. What I have left is 3x squared plus 4. That's what this is right here. All right. All right, y'all, that's it. The homework check is next. And here's a nice little grouping example right here. You can take a look at it. Oops, move myself back in here. Okay, that's it, y'all. Thank you very much.